Welcome to the Love on the Go podcast, brought to you by Carolina's Matchmaker. I'm Laurie Burzak, and for over 17 years, I've been helping singles find the relationship of their dreams all over the Carolinas. Along the journey, I've met so many amazing professionals and experts from various fields, and I'm excited to introduce them to you. What's my goal? I want to help you look at love and relationships in a new way and to grow in your understanding of how love works. Let's learn together how people have overcome personal obstacles and have found love, first and foremost with themselves. The ultimate goal is realizing that you are worthy and deserving of love. Let's get started. It's so great to see you again, Ivy. You and I were just talking before I started the podcast about how we met. And we can't remember exactly who connected us, but when we met, it was like two souls meeting each other, like again, for the first, in this lifetime. Like at the time you had just broken up with, or you were in the midst of breaking up with a longer term boyfriend. And and what did I say to you?
You were like, you were trying to set me up in the beginning. And I was like, well, I'm with somebody right now. And then we got together after we broke up and you're like, I want you to be one of my clients.
I want you.
For
you to meet one of my clients. For sure.
Yeah. And then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And then we haven't caught up until now. I'm like, I'm engaged.
Yeah. And that's how it works. Throw a little pandemic in there and Ivy meets someone. Yeah. So, all right. So let me back it up. So today, Ivy Robinson with Ivy Robinson Events joins us. And if you have never been to her website or Instagram, please check it out for the most beautiful photos of her events. Each one looks like a masterpiece, truly, of detail and class and beauty. And these events, I mean, they take months, sometimes years to plan, I'm sure. And then they're over in a blink of an eye. Yeah. And I'm certain you have it must feel like a birth of sorts. So
and then a breakup, it feels like.
Yes, and then a breakup.
And then somebody you talk to every single day. You don't talk to that much anymore.
You miss them. There must be some of that feeling. Yeah, I love that. Well, what made you want to become an event planner? Have you always wanted to do this?
No, I didn't.
How did it happen?
I always joke and say that event planning found me. So my background is journalism, and I always wanted to be the next Katie Couric. I was like, that's going to be my goal. So I went to Meredith College and got a degree in fashion merchandising. So that's where this creative side comes from. And then I went to NC State and got a degree in mass communication. So I had interned at the TV stations. I did all this undercover, you have the purse with the camera in it, catching people selling things that were wrong. And then I interned at CNN for, it was Showbiz Today. Okay. And when I graduated from college, one of my girlfriends, she was a sorority sister, she said, hey, help me run this event planning company. And so we merged together and started planning events in Raleigh. And so she went off to sell real estate, and I just kept trucking into this path that I had no direction of doing it. So you got to think, like, I had no business plan. I had nothing. I grew up in a family that loved to entertain. My mother would throw together parties last minute, and I'm like that too. And so all of a sudden, I was running a venue, and all the brides I was meeting with, they're like, will you help me on the side finish planning my wedding? Aww. And so that's how it evolved. It was in 2002.
Okay.
So so here I am.
I love, what's the best part about your job?
The best part of my job are the people I get to meet and my clients. So I work with amazing people, and my clients, most of them, we are really good friends. We still chat. I have friends, I think I did it was 12 or 13 years ago. They're coming to spend the week at 4th of July with us. I just had lunch with a bride and her mother that I did their wedding 4 years ago. Yesterday, I was in Lumberton doing a corporate event for my clients. I did all three of her daughter's weddings 17 years ago and 10 years ago. So to me, it's the relationships that have built and formed from doing their weddings, which are the most intimate days of their lives. So
It
yeah.
is. And it's interesting because I've heard that there are a lot of planners that don't want to plan weddings because they need to deal with the stressors from all sides. There's the bride or the bridezilla, the mother of the bride, the groom, his mother, the cousins, the sisters, and everyone else. So
Yeah.
what made you want to take on that challenge? Was there something that made you feel really connected to weddings and
So
you regret it?
every family has their different dynamics. Nobody's perfect. And it's really the way I go into it. It's like, it's the way you handle the dynamics. Don't bring more drama to it. Don't draw attention to it. It is what it is. Let's embrace it and just make the day special for the bride and groom, and let all the family BS go to the sides if it can. And let's just focus on them.
I can only imagine. And have you ever had to handle like a massive conflict in the middle of the planning stages that seemed
All the time.
impossible
Yeah,
to
I'm trying. I
handle?
mean, it's all the time. And when I do, I used to do a lot of speaking engagements. I have one coming up next year, but I always say 90% of my job is therapy and
Right.
10% is planning. And so you really learn to be a mediator with all the different personalities and the conflicts that come in. So it's never boring. That's one thing I love about my job. It is never boring. Every bride and every wedding are completely different. And so I'm self-diagnosed ADD. So I like each day is different. So one wedding will be bright pink and green, and then one's all white, so it's fun for me to really dive in and get to know everybody and their style and their personality and design around that.
I love that. And how can you suggest to people how to avoid conflict during the planning stages of a special event?
The best way to avoid conflict is communication. And there's a lot of, we deal with a lot of who's financing the wedding. So you
Yes.
have a lot of different, that's where a lot of the conflict can potentially arise. And so for me, I'm always like, communicate. So if the bride's mother tells me one thing and the groom's mother tells me another, and I'm in the middle, so I'm ending up mediating between the two families a lot of times. And so it's really communication.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And do you think it needs to come from the bride and the groom saying to their in-laws, listen, it needs to come from us. We don't want you all communicating directly with the event planner. Just have like one person that's in touch with you versus
So,
all strangers
right.
coming in.
I normally like to have one or two points of contact. And it's one of the other things, obviously, communication is important. But I always tell my clients when they seem to get stressed, it's not really the wedding planning process, it's everybody in their ears. Well, I saw on TikTok you should be this far along. I saw on Instagram you need this. My cousin who just got married last week, their planner did this, and what about this? And that's what stresses them. They're all the outside mouths in their ears, and they're reading stuff. And social media is so dominant right now in everybody's lives, and it's almost warping our sense of reality for a lot of things. And so I try to, like, hey, let's come back down.
Right.
And let's focus. I got this. Like, I've been doing it 20 plus years. We got it. We know what we're doing.
I love that. Well, it's funny because when I got engaged, my mom said to me, let's do a very short engagement period, because she knew that planning a wedding could be very stressful. And she handled the entire thing, which was actually great for me. I didn't mind, believe it or not. I mean, I was 26 years old and I was like, you do it, mom. From Philadelphia, and I was in Atlanta where my, then fiance, now husband, that's where we were. So she handled it. I literally walked in and everything was done for me. I know most brides don't want to do that, but for me, I was like, I don't care. I don't like planning events, to be honest with you. So do you agree with a short engagement period being best, like the shorter? I mean, I know it's harder on the wedding planner.
I prefer shorter, but
for shorter too. Okay.
For me, well, so here's the difference. I think it depends on the individual and their personality. Some people can handle a short engagement, some like a long engagement. So it depends on their stress and how they handle stress. So I was with a bride earlier today. She likes the long engagement. She likes the process to be slow and carried out. And then I have some that say, I want to get married in 4 months. And for me, I can knock out 4 months in a week and do it.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
the challenge now is, I think the shortest I've done one was 9 weeks. We did a whole wedding in 9 weeks. And then I did Emily Maynard's wedding in 12 weeks.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah. So we did everything in 12 weeks. And so for me, I'm pretty fast on doing, like, if you give me, I'm a deadline girl.
Okay.
So, all right, we got 12 weeks, we're gonna do this, and knock it out. So I don't need a year to plan somebody's wedding.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
That's good for everyone to know. And just in case people don't know who Emily Maynard is, she was the Bachelorette. I don't remember when that was. We all watched her fall in love with several people, and it was fun to watch. And she's from Charlotte. So I love that. So any tips for planning a wedding reception for couples on a budget? Like what to save on, what to splurge on?
So I always tell the clients that are on a budget, make sure that your expectation matches your investment that you want to put into the wedding. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier with all the social media everywhere. People are seeing unrealistic, they're looking at celebrity weddings that are 2, 3, 4, 5+ million dollars, and they're wanting to spend, way less than that. So it's really being realistic with your expectation and making sure that one of the things I never want to see a client do is never spend beyond your means at the wedding. It's one day, and it's a very important and special day. But a lot of people get so wrapped up into the details that they forget what the day is really about. So it's about the union, it's about the marriage, it's about being together and making that commitment to each other. And so mistakes and little things will happen and something will go wrong. And it's like, in the grand scheme of things, think about what's really happening that day.
Yeah, I think that's important. It kind of goes to one of the questions I had for you, which was like, what makes an event successful and how do you measure that success?
An event successful for me, it might be a little bit different for my clients because I'm on the production side of things. But for me, the best part is to watch my clients have so much fun and come up and say, this was the best day of my life. We had so much fun. This was the best party we've ever been to. So for me, I know on both their end and my end, that's a successful event. And it's also, if it rains all of a sudden, you're having an outdoor wedding, you have to embrace that and still have fun. And don't let that, ruin your day. So for me, it's the success is that everybody's happy, everybody had a great time, and that they got married and they did not lose track of that, but that the party was just a really fun time for everybody. So what I always ask my clients are in the beginning is, what's the top 3 most important things to you at the reception? And then those top 3 things is where you allocate more money than other things. So, and it goes back to making sure the expectation matches your budget as well. So make sure that you're not spending, if you're on a tight budget, make sure that you're not spending all your money on really expensive invitations because they just go in the trash. So I always, what's the best experience for your guests? And that's where you should allocate the most money. It's like, what are your best guest experience going to come from? What is your experience going to come from? So again, it kind of goes back to every bride's different. So if she loves flowers, then she puts a little more towards flowers. If she's not a big drinker, then she doesn't do a full bar. She might do beer and wine or just a signature cocktail. So it should be tailored to each individual. But I always want them to be smart about what they spend, because you can get so caught up in it that you end up going over budget. And then afterwards you're like, oh, did I really need the gold flakes trimmed on my, signature drink?
Right.
Stuff like that. So
that's such a good point. And when you were talking earlier about a potential rain out at a wedding, tell us what is the craziest situation you have experienced while running an event. I saw on your Instagram a behind the scenes photo dump where you survived a tornado warnings, 4 seasons in one day, and power bleeps.
So that happened in May. That we adore, we love them, and they handled it perfect because everything that happened that day was completely out of our control. So it was chilly that morning, and then it got hot. Then we had tornado warnings, and then we had the downpour of it. And then our generator went out for the tent, and all the power went out, and the band had to stop playing. Then we had to get that done. I mean, it was just, but it's really, something will go wrong. It's how you embrace it, and just you're surrounded by your family and friends. You're married. Just still have fun. Depend on your wedding planner and your team to fix it, and they will. And the party will go on. And it did.
I love that.
Yeah.
What are like the top 2 or 3 things that you would recommend to people planning an event that they might not otherwise consider?
Oh, in terms of what to think about?
Yeah, what to think about, like something that people don't usually think about when they're planning an event.
Well, that's a good question. So a lot of times people need to think about, when they're looking at vendors. So make sure that you have experienced, reputable vendors. Like, know that they've been in business for a while, that they're not going to just close shop and take off with your deposit, because I've heard of that happening. Think about, one of the things I always think about is, if you have, and this is just kind of bizarre, but you think about your guests. Think about, is anybody handicapped? Are they in a wheelchair? Are you accessible? Are you hauling them to the middle of a field out in the middle of nowhere, and you have a lot of handicapped people coming? You need to make that accessible, from restroom trailers to all of that. So I always say, think about your guests and their experience, and is this easy for them to get to and get out of? And so that's something a lot of people don't think about. And think about the weather. If you're an outdoor event with a tent, you will have issues. I mean, most likely. Are there bugs? Have you sprayed for that? Are there, what's the noise ordinance? Do you have a weather plan in place? Everything. We can't control that. It's just, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's not really the situation at hand, it's how you handle it. So we stay very calm, and because it's a domino effect. If I freak out, it just keeps going all the way down. So I'm like very neutral, calm when stuff goes wrong, and we just fix it and move on.
I love that.
Yeah.
What is your dream gig? Do you have like a bucket list, like event in your mind that you're waiting for the perfect client to request?
No, I don't. Because I think all of my weddings are so different that just stimulates me to be better and design more, like getting to know them. So I don't have a dream. I'll tell you that I specialize and do better with tented events. I like that tent. I like the blank canvas. I like going in. I like the challenge of it. So I get bored real easy. So I like that challenge of going into that and going, okay, how can we make this like super cool and unique? And what can we do different that hasn't been seen before? So that's what I personally like.
What about travel? Have you traveled many places for weddings?
Oh yeah. So a lot of our clients aren't in Charlotte.
Okay.
So yeah, this year, the furthest I've been is in Hawaii.
Wow.
So I did a wedding in Hawaii, and then we have a client that will take us to Michigan, then Florida, South Carolina. We travel all over doing events.
I just think that would be so much fun.
Yeah, it is. And I love going to different, areas and networks, and, meeting new people and using connections that we've had to connect with vendors in that area. So it's fun.
Let's talk about you personally for a moment. We talked at the beginning of the hour about, the fact that you had been dating someone when I first met you. You're previously married, correct? Okay.
Yep.
How long were you married the first time? Can you talk a little bit about kind of what attracted you to him in the first place and why ultimately it didn't work out?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first husband and I were great friends, best friends since 7th grade. And there's we didn't end up getting together until after college. Yeah, it was after college. And so everything for me, where I think I failed, is that we grew, but we didn't grow together. We grew apart. And personally, what I've seen and I've witnessed is like, you change so much from your 20s to your 30s to your 40s. And so to make a relation successful, you either choose that you're going to hammer this out and grow together, or you're going to grow apart. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if it doesn't work, because what was perfect for me at the time in my 20s and 30s isn't working for me right now. And I will tell you, divorce is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done and been through, just on an emotional level. And it was really, really hard. But I will say, I grew from that, and I became a better person. I became a better communicator. I learned from that. Each relationship, for me personally, and I think it's for a lot of people, is you have to take from that relationship if it doesn't work out, and you grow from it. And what can you learn from that to be a better person in every aspect in life? And so what I learned was, I was so career driven and focused that I didn't take time to really focus on my relationship. And so before I knew it, we were roommates living two separate lives. And so for me, I'll never forget. So, I was going to a therapist, and she was like, it's socially programmed. You're doing everything that was programmed for you from a kid. Social. You go to college, you get married, you have, the kids, you stay at home, you do this. And so my whole life, I rebelled that. But I was falling into the pattern of like, get married, do this. And I never had the kid part. And I just was so driven with my company and my business. And so with that being said, I was like, okay, so I went back through the divorce, and I was like, how can I be a better partner in my next relationship? How can I be a better communicator? So we all learn every day. We all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. And I swore I would never get married again. And now I'm engaged.
So what enticed you to get remarried and think about getting married again?
Well, it's, I believe people come and go in your life for all at the right time for the right reason. And this amazing man came into my life when I least expected it, and just everything aligned on every single level. I mean, it was just, they always say, when you know, and yeah. We got together. I mean, we've only been together a year. We got together, we met in the airport, and we have not been apart since.
You met at an airport?
Well, we were meeting for a trip in the airport for the first time. And we were in New Orleans. We met there, and we have not been apart since. And we met in June, got engaged in January, and we've already bought a house together. And so I really think that, there's a series, you typically have, like, I've always seen like 3 good lovers in your life, that relationships. And so you have the one, your first love, that some people stay with forever. Then you have the one that's a little toxic, and then you have the forever. And so I'm on my forever. I've hit all 3 of those. And, for me to leave my marriage, it was the hardest thing I ever did. But, and I was going to tell you, so my grandmother, she died last year. She was 106 years old.
Wow.
And yeah. And so nobody in my family but one cousin had been divorced. So, I mean, you're thinking, here's the hierarchy of our family. And so I had to tell her that I was getting divorced. And I was sitting there, and at the time she was 101 or 100. And I said, I have to tell you something. I just started crying. I was like, I'm so sorry. I hope I haven't failed you, but I'm getting divorced. And she looked at me. Now, she's old school. She's 101. She goes, life's too short to not be happy.
Oh.
And I was like, you are 100% right. And I fought internally for this, like trying to find that happiness. And I couldn't until I left the marriage. And it was like all this stress. And I came back out, and I was happy again. And so I will never forget her. And I laughed, and I said, Grandma, you're 101. Life is short. Yes, you're right. It is too short to not be happy. So I've always remembered that, and I always like stress to people, I just want everybody should be happy. Life is not easy. Relationships aren't easy. And it's like a wedding. It's how you embrace the conflict and move forward. Are you going to draw a lot of drama and attention to it? Or are you just going to embrace it and learn from it and make it better and fix it? So yeah, that's where we are.
Beautiful. I'm so thrilled for you. So
Thank
of course, my next question that I'm going to ask is about your wedding planning. Are you eloping? Are you doing it local? What are you doing?
So we have no plans.
Okay.
And I get that question all the time. What's the wedding planner going to do? And the wedding planner is so busy planning everybody else's wedding that she has not thought about her own. So most likely we'll probably elope, but we have not. We're just having a great time and taking day to day. He just had his first grandchild, so now I'm a grandma.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, grandma. So we're just enjoying life with, he has 3 wonderful kids and I love them all, and
Nice.
now a granddaughter. And so we're just loving life with them and each other and traveling, and we have no plans. I might text you one day and say, hey, I just got married.
Yes, I could totally see it. I'm absolutely thrilled for you, Ivy. Yeah, best of luck. And thanks for sharing your experience with people. I think it's been really helpful and useful, and a lot of people are going to gain a lot of perspective from it.
So what my best advice is, if somebody's going to be like me and says, you're never getting married again, don't say that, because he'll turn around and bite you. Never say never. It will hit you when you least expect it.
I love it. Oh, favorite charity. We do.
Ooh,
yes.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yep. So I am a huge advocate for animals. So any local, I can send you the whole list of charities that I support, and also Kids Cancer. So those are my 2 top, like SPCA, anything that I have. The best dog, he's my rescue, and he is so dear to me. He even has his own Instagram page, but I am a huge advocate for animal rescue, getting them off the streets from abuse. Yeah.
Wonderful. And how can people find you?
So there's Instagram, Ivy Robinson Events, and my website is ivyrobinson.com.
Wonderful. And I encourage everyone to go look at these fabulous photos. Thank you so much, Ivy. It was really great to have you.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to Love on the Go. I hope you join us on our next episode. You can make sure to know when it is by following us wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed it, it'd be great if you left us a review. I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, to learn more about me and how my team can help you, visit carolinasmatchmaker.com. Until next time.